Welcome, everyone. Going on a more light note now, Sumin, when we first spoke last year, you told me your annual revenue went from $83,000 in 2020 to a projected $250 million in 2024. Beauty of Joseon is 7 years old, and the growth came after a rebrand. How did you revamp the brand into what it is today?
Yes, we did a complete rebrand from the first beginning of starting. And when I first created Beauty of Joseon at the first place, I wanted to create a skincare brand that is gentle and effective like everyone else who founded their brand, but deeply rooted in Korean culture, what I experienced from my younger age. And I inspired by Hanbang, which is traditional Korean herbal medicine, and how the Hanbang ingredients like ginseng, rice, green plum have been carried for centuries. And as growing up as a ordinary Korean girl, I still remember my mom saving water after cleansing rice so I can cleanse my face with that. And also, we sometimes take ginseng to make that energy when we're lack of energy and everything. So yeah, those kind of experience that I had really inspired me to deliver to the world how those ingredients and beauty wisdom, the beauty wisdom from Joseon Dynasty are amazing, and even through the lens of modern science. And also the second thing is the SPF, obviously. We got that viral moment from TikTok like 2 years ago, and everyone was so happy with our formulation and texture that is so lightweight and breathable without leaving white cast, which is so crucial for SPF. And yeah, those two things like were deeply rooted in Korean culture, and the SPF formulation, those two are the main things what made us become what it is today.
And Mark, since launching in 2022, you've also seen fast growth with a $200 million revenue projection this year. What do you think were the biggest drivers of this growth in such a short time?
200 million? Is that what I'm worth? Husband, where's my money? Bioma was really built around addressing a true consumer need. The consumer's overwhelmed at every single touch point, and our core target consumer, Gen Z, is, as a result of that, overtreating, overusing, overexfoliating, playing chemist in their bathrooms, and that's why we're ultimately on a mission to change that and to empower people to make smart and informed educated choices. Skin barrier health is our North Star, and a subject that we're incredibly passionate about. But I think what's made Bioma so successful is a combination of delivering serious science in a not so serious way. I believe that serious skincare doesn't need to be so serious, right? And there was literally a lot of white space within a very sterile, clinical, and homogenous white space, and I'm not a very bland person. But I also think community really informed and inspired everything that we do. So it's this combination of science, community, and education that has helped us achieve what we've achieved.
And Ava, you're focused specifically on sunscreen. It's such a hot category right now with so many startups. What has it taken for your brand to capture consumers' interest?
I mean, when we launched 6 years ago, it was the prestige sun category didn't exist really. You know, in Australia, we didn't have Supergoop, so it was a bit of a wasteland when we launched. And now, of course, it's very buzzy. But I think when you do one category, you have to do it really, really well. And I think with sunscreen specifically, the consumers, I don't know, for some reason, they're like so passionate about sunscreen, but then they will turn on you if you get it wrong, which, you know, it is really, really easy to do in a category like sunscreen. So I think, as a brand, we've been really laser focused on two things. So product, really excelling in our product. And, I think as a business, we really pride ourselves on the innovation in our range, and also brand. And I think, being from Australia, we have a really nice, strong brand story. We have a very clear visual tone of voice. We like to have a bit of fun in what is a pretty stale, boring category. It's kind of hard to sexy up sunscreen, but I think we're doing it.
So your brands are all over TikTok. What's the playbook for finding that viral spark? Sumin, I'm sure everyone here wants to hear the Beauty of Joseon's story.
Yeah, I still remember that period of time that we got the first viral moment on TikTok, and it was not only on TikTok, it was on all over on social media like Instagram and YouTube. And I was on the phone all day long calling to the manufacturer to add more production line to keep up, and they were like, I was definitely feel the vibe that they're thinking we're crazy because we were just a small brand, and they were like, I did feel their skeptical vibe, and I even tried to find their CEO, the email address of CEO, and sent a long email that we are so desperate to keep up with this huge demand, because I remember it was mentioned during the session, when there's no stock available, that viral doesn't have any meaning, right? So I think what made us go viral is because of the texture and finish, obviously, because everyone had a huge expectation about Korean SPF, and that SPF we made at the moment use the newest innovative filters at the moment that feels super lightweight. It's breathable and blendable under makeup. It didn't leave any white cast, so I think people genuinely surprised and started to upload so many contents on their social media channel. So many people ask me, how did you get that, viral? How did you manage to, make that happen? But it was like totally organic. So I feel so grateful and lucky to have that viral.
And Mark, we're seeing Bioma in almost every major influencer's Get Ready With Me videos. You also have a really big retail presence. What do you think are the most important factors for widespread brand awareness?
Yeah, now I know where the 200 million's gone. I think from a TikTok perspective, it starts with product, right? We actually spend more money on clinical trials than we do on influencer marketing. So it really starts with understanding the customer. What do they want? What do they need? And finding ways, unique ways to connect with them. I often say to my team, I think direct to community is the new D2C. And it's finding deep, meaningful ways to connect. So since launching, we've hosted over 1,000 in real life events, between retail pop-ups, between retail activations, immersive experiences. We're really committed to meeting our consumer wherever they're at. And what we're seeing now is the lines between physical and digital blurring. So for me, what's really critical is connecting with the community as frequently as possible in the most authentic way, but also in the most disruptive way.
Let's talk about the state of skincare overall. Some of the bigger players are seeing a slowdown. What does that mean for indie brands? Ava, what do you think?
I mean, I think it's an opportunity for a young brand to kind of stand out and be a bit more agile. I think that's kind of been the benefit for Ultraviolet, where in a lot of markets globally, we're in 30 different countries, which is too many if you ask me. But I think it's an opportunity for us to kind of do things differently and move faster, and we've definitely seen that with our product. you know, we're one of the very few brands. I think we're probably the only brand, sunscreen brand, that we've reformulated our products for each market that we're in. And I think being a small team has allowed us to do that. You know, we've got a really great NPD team in the business. We've got regulatory in the business. And I think, you know, for us to be able to, you know, not quickly launch into a market like the US, because it did take some time, but to kind of pick up our formulations in Australia and kind of quickly adapt to be able to launch, you know, globally has been a real advantage for us. So I think, you know, our nimbleness and our agility is definitely an advantage for us. And I think, you know, as a privately owned small brand, we can get away, and in a category like sunscreen, we can get away with saying things that the bigger brands can't, and we can really, you know, put our stake in the ground and have a real opinion on. I guess there's a, you know, if you understand sunscreen, there's a bit of a narrative going on. I call it the RFK-ification of skincare and sunscreen, and it's hideous actually. And there's a brand, I'm not even going to name them, but they just did a billboard calling sunscreen poison. And we were able to kind of quickly adapt and create in-house, you know, a digital, our design team, AI didn't do it, but our design team did it, and we did on the exact billboards that they had put these stupid slogans. We did our own kind of, I guess, countering that and saying, you know, not to fearmonger, but I think to say that the sunscreens, the chemicals are in everything. You know, it's not poison. It's and we were able to kind of have a laugh and just do things that I think some of the bigger brands aren't able to do. So I think it's a real benefit.
Yeah, that campaign generated a lot of buzz. Mark, Bioma has a knack for hit skincare products. Looking at your bestsellers, can you walk us through the development process for creating winners?
Yeah, of course. I think everything starts with an insight, right? And the way we've built our infrastructure is essentially to know our customer better than they know themselves, and find ways to serve them in the most authentic way. So there's kind of 3 ways in which we do that. So clinical trials, we've conducted over 76 in the last 3 years. So we really understand the science of skin. Social, we had over 200,000 DMs last month. And we're turning those DMs into a connection and into a conversation. And really on the back end, finding ways to ask questions and again, to really understand what do they want, what do they need. And then lastly, it's true innovation. Finding true white spaces where there's a consumer need, there's demand, and holding yourself to the highest possible standard. If we can't do it better than anyone else, we don't do it. And I think it's a combination of all of those things. And I guess to summarize, it's having the insights, the intelligence, but also the intuition to really do things differently.
People are so interested in international sunscreens. Sumin, did you want to talk about your US formulation process?
Yes. As many of you guys know, we weren't able to sell our global version of sunscreen in the US starting from last year, I remember. I mean the Korean version. So we love our US consumers. I mean, they're so important for us. And we knew that there's a huge demand of developing beautiful sunscreens that they need, that they experience from our original version. So we worked on it, and I mean, it took a lot of work. I tested like more than 100 times on my face, and yeah, so I can say that we're finalized the final formula of our US sunscreen only using FDA-approved filters that delivers the beautiful lightweight texture that everyone have experienced from our original sunscreen. So it's gonna be our huge launch this year.
Mm-hmm. And what about Australian sunscreens?
Yeah, well, I mean, Australian sunscreens are almost the benchmark for the best sunscreen globally. We kind of, at Ultraviolet, we start with an Australian approved, and we test everything to Australian standards, whether it's being sold in the US or Canada. But, you know, it is, the reformulation part is something, I mean, I could talk about this for hours, so you'll probably have to stop me, Liz. But, you know, the reformulation process for the US was hard, and it's, you know, we've been around for 6 years, and we've got, you know, a really loyal following globally. So there was a lot of confusion around what formulas were being sold here versus the rest of the world, and people without really understanding so much about the actual filters. I mean, most of what people have learned in America about UV filters has come from Charlotte Palomino. So, you know, without that much of an understanding, they just know that they're better. So it's like, I want the better. And, but we did, you know, we spent 2 years reformulating for the US. We didn't actually ever want to do it initially, which was before we got investors, and then once we had investors, we were like, okay, yeah, well, I guess we need to do this. And then it became, I guess, a bit of a passion project of Beck, my co-founder, and myself, and we really challenged ourselves to make formulations as good as the rest of the world, so that, you know, whether you tried our product on vacation in Greece and found it in a Sephora there, and now you're back home in the States living wherever, and you walk into your local Sephora, and the product that you're picking up there is just as good as the one you found earlier. But it is a really, it's a grueling process. I think sunscreen is the hardest category. I mean, every category has its challenges, but you do need real guts to do something like sunscreen, because it's really tightly regulated in multiple different regions. So it's, yeah, Beck and I always laugh that we didn't know that when we got into it. We're like, we could have done something easier. But Beck loves to do hard things, so, and I will do whatever she says, so yeah.
Great. Well, I think we're running low on time, but just to wrap up, I just wanted to talk about challenges for indie brands. You're launching at Sephora. You've launched at Sephora. You're launching at Sephora. Do you want to talk about the tariff situation and what's top of mind as indie brands right now?
Do you want me to start?
Do you want to go to first?
Sure. I mean, the tariff situation is a challenge, of course. You know, we're in Australia. Everything we make is in Australia, so it's just we're in the 10% club. So that's not our biggest challenge, I don't think, at the moment, although it is changing every day. So, you know, every day Beck and I, during that period, we were like, what fresh hell are we going to wake up to today? But I guess for me, what's top of mind as we're building a brand is, you know, sunscreen is a category that's kind of like, no matter which way you cut it, it's almost, there's some fear-mongering in it. You know, you're either telling people that they're going to look uglier earlier, or you're telling people that they're going to have cancer if they don't use this product. It's kind of like a preventative product. And then the visual like cues, the befores and the afters, it's not, there's no instant gratification to sunscreen. So I think it's hard to get a customer that doesn't really understand why they need to wear sunscreen, and maybe they're 25 and we're saying, you're going to see the benefit in 10 years. Like, when you're 25, you don't give a shit about the next 10 years. Like, you're like just living in the day. Like, you're never going to die. You're never going to get cancer. You know what I mean? It's just, it's a hard, so I guess my challenge is like, what is the unlock to making it more positive and joyful? And I think as a brand, that's what we really try to do, is bring some fun and joy into a category that is, you know, historically not been joyful. And I know there is an unlock, because it can't be about scaring people into doing something. You want to make them love it. So for me, that is what I think about every night. And I know it's there. It's like, you know, I'm 10 months postpartum, so I'm like, it's just there. Like, I just have to wait till my brain kind of wakes up. They say 12 months, so the clock's ticking.
Yeah, what about you, Mark?
I also, look, I think arguably every single person in this room, we're navigating through probably the most uncertain times that this industry's ever experienced. And the way we've really approached it as a business is, let's plan for every scenario and be prepared to react. But also, you know, as Tarang said earlier this morning, you have to deal with it in a really honest way. Tell your community, tell your customers, this is what it means to us. And then from a business perspective right now, we're really just using this as an opportunity to level up, staying true to our purpose, hiring the best people, focusing on culture. How do we set people up for success? How do we create an environment where people feel safe being in the unknown, they feel safe failing, they feel safe taking risks, and then build amazing partnerships with the best retailers and the best partners that will support you through whatever challenge you face. So,
What about you, Sumin?
When you're talking about tariffs first, yeah, being affordable as a Korean skincare brand is such an important part of our brand identity because everyone expects that K-beauty is really affordable, like under 20. So we're keeping that concept as well. So at least for now, we're trying to absorb that increased cost ourselves without increasing prices. But we're gonna see like situation is changing so fast. So I think we'll see if this will going to be in long-term situation. And yeah, we'll have to figure out how to respond to that. But yeah, but more than that, the most challenging part is that we don't want to be considered as a one-hit wonder on TikTok. So what we're creating is to focus more on creating our ecosystem of our BOJ world to bring that relief to every one of our consumers out there. So yeah, that is gonna be our biggest challenge rather than tariff thing, yeah.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.